Hi, you're listening to Wimbledon, hosted by me, Nick Ray. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am super pumped again. This week I have a very special guest. She is Sophie Power from the UK. Sophie is a friend of mine from INSEAD Business School. She's many things. I'm going to get her to introduce herself, but she has recently released an amazing video about ultra running and coming back to running after giving birth to her third kid. We're not just going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all the themes around building up wins, defining wins, and defining your strategy for competition and for being a better individual in your field. So, Sophie, I'm going to pass over to you to introduce yourself. If you could tell us a bit about your background as well, how you ended up where you did, and explain to me how you got to be an incredible runner. When I met you, I don't think you ran at all, right?
No, that was a bit of an accident. So yeah, I'm a mum of three, and I live in the UK, and I pretty much for a long time led a double life. So I built my career up through kind of the boring investment banking route and private equity, and then became a finance director. And then when I fell pregnant with my first around 6-7 years ago, I co-founded a technology company to find a way to clean polluted air. I was living in central London at the time, and I wanted to make the world a better place for him to live in. So I ran that for 5 years and left a couple of years ago. At the same time, I had become an ultra runner and run some of the world's hardest races. So my longest race, kind of for context, was 268 miles without stopping. And Spartathlon was about 153 miles without stopping. So that's one side of my life. And the other side, through business and technology. And I'm very much into social impact and working with firms to make the world a better place. And then since my running side went a bit crazy when a picture of me went viral around the world of me breastfeeding my 3-month-old while I was running 106 miles. And now I spend most of my time trying to empower women to be active and taking down the barriers to women being kind of happy and healthy and leading fulfilling lives. So it's a whole new chapter of my life that's just started, but kind of very much there's been a business side and the running side, and they finally come together somewhat.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to say, so a lot of people will probably be familiar with that picture. And I did make a promise to you not to have you have to breastfeed on the podcast. Just because,
she's asleep.
Because it seems in the video as well, they definitely captured that moment for you with your third one as well. No, that picture was amazing. It's such a powerful image. And I think especially my wife really loved it, and she showed it to me. I'd already seen it, obviously, because I knew about you and I'd seen it posted around, but and I follow trail running, forums and things. But my wife came and showed it to me because she's such a big proponent of breastfeeding as well. And when we were in the UK, she felt that some people in the UK were not so positive about breastfeeding and being, open about breastfeeding. So she was like, this is awesome. And I was like, yeah, and I know her. It's like a claim to fame suddenly. So no, I think what you're doing is amazing as well. So the video, for those listening and watching, if you haven't seen the video, definitely check it out. Share the video. This is something that is Sophie has worked extremely hard on, and it is definitely helping to empower women. So please share it far and wide, because it's amazing. It's a really good documentary and just a great capture of a moment in life. I think it's beautiful. How did you get there though, Sophie? Let's wheel it right back. So when did you start deciding to set about on a 268-mile run? I'm guessing you ran a few before then.
So mine was a very unusual entry into ultra running. So it was about 12 years ago, and I'd been made redundant in a really kind of nasty way from a private equity company. And I first of all got a flight to Thailand to spend 2 months. I just got married, which is one of the reasons I was made redundant. And I got a flight to Thailand and spent 2 months learning to kick people in the head. And I got really good at it. And I wanted to fight. And my new husband said, no, you're not fighting. So I came back and I was just a bit lost. And one of my friends that I used to be in a university air squadron. So I used to train as a pilot navigator in the Royal Air Force while I was at university. And he just done this race called the Marathon des Sables, which, for people who don't know, it's a 250-kilometer, fairly self-sufficient 6 or 7 day race across the Sahara Desert. And you carry all your food with you and your rucksack, and they give you water and a basic tent, but that's it for the 7 days. And he said, you'd be really good at this. And I said, well, I've never run more than a mile in my life. And I was second last in the mile at school. I was not a fit kid, not a sporty kid. And he said, you know, you can march really well. You're great at tracking. This will be good for you. So I didn't look at what it was. I had 9 months till the start line and I just signed up. And then I looked at what it was and go, oh, gee, what am I going to do? So the next day I went for a run. So that's how I got into ultra running. I mean, I was really fit from kickboxing, doing Muay Thai. But I'd had this mental block on being a runner kind of ever since I was 14 and I came second last. And even at university, kind of did a bit of rugby and football, but rowing, I had to run to the boat club in the morning, and I used to leave really early so I could walk, just so I didn't have to run that distance because I just didn't think I could. So I did a Marathon des Sables. I ended up doing really well, realized it's something that I'm good at from the mental side, from the physical side and the endurance side. And then I keep running stage races around the world and building up to 100-mile races. And then ever since I've actually had the children, I've done the hardest races. I've become a better runner. Instead of going away for kind of 7 days, which is quite difficult when you've got young ones, I'm like, well, I'll just run that distance nonstop, and I'll get back a few days earlier. So that's what it's come into. And I really love running very long distances. So from the girl who couldn't run at all, I've now become a fairly good ultra runner, which I never expected. It's all about kind of when someone says you should do something, don't think about it. Just say yes, because you never know what's going to happen, really.
So I really want to explore two different things, and I'm not sure which one to pick first, because there's something about the way in which you have grown and developed, which shows, I think, incredible resilience. You perseverance. You have something, and it might even be stubbornness. You know, if I'm going to call it by a less positive name, I don't know, and I don't know you that well that I can name it and claim it, but I think there's something really interesting there about your personality, which I want to explore. But there's also this other side, which is sort of like what is the driver? What is the thing that is like not just the sort of the stubbornness of I'm going to do it, but it's like what is the driver for getting to the end of those runs? I think the more interesting side is to explore that, like, you as an individual. Where do you think it comes from? Have you always been someone who's well, first of all, do you call yourself stubborn? Or would you call yourself very resilient, or would you call yourself persevering? What how would you name it?
I'd probably call it kind of grit. I kind of read a book. I think it's kind of knuckling down and getting to the end and never giving up. I think stubbornness is, there's a lot of stubborn ultra runners. And I think stubbornness is kind of going down one path and never, ever kind of changing from that path. And I think that's not what I do, because I have to adapt to different circumstances. And you have to adapt during races as well. And in ultra running, stubbornness is dangerous. So there's been a race I pulled out of because I didn't feel the course was safe anymore. Stubborn people would have kept going down that. So there's a balance in that. But I think I like to push my body to limits. I like to push my mind to limits. That's what I enjoy doing. I feel so much stronger in everything I do in life because of what I achieve out on the trails. So you go through the worst things on the trails, and you think you can't go on, and then you do. And then you take that back into life, and you realize you can achieve much more than you originally thought possible. So I know how much I get from finishing the races. And I enjoy the training. I enjoy being out in the trails. It's my meditation, my kind of catching up with my friends, my problem solving, everything. But on the stubborn side, there's definitely a mindset that I have that is being very independent from a very young age. My parents worked really hard. I didn't mean they really knew what A levels I was doing some of the time, or never looked at anything. I just got on with it. And I think that really fed into being really independent and exploring and liking adventure. And that sets your mindset up to just go, well, I'm just going to say yes. And I don't like to look back and think I failed on something and I could have succeeded if I just tried a little bit harder.
I feel like it's my naivety saying stubbornness, because I love the word grit. And in fact, so the other thing that I really felt tempted to ask you about as well, which I will, is the fact that I have a lot of friends actually who are ultra runners and long marathon runners and all sorts of things, mountain runners, trail runners. I'm I'm like a little baby brother to a bunch of very impressive people who have taken me under their wing and taken me running with them. So when I was in Switzerland, we did some incredible stuff, and I never ran a giant long, 100-mile or anything like that at all. But all of those people, I always was so impressed with their sort of resilience, their grit. I think it's a great word, their grit. And but most of them as well are so private in that they don't want to come on a podcast and talk to me about their thing, because it's like a part of their thing is that it's their own world. They can go into this world, and I get it, because I also run, and I've talked before about the fact that that's kind of my meditation, but I'm not doing anything close to the distances you guys do and stuff. I think it's the community of ultra running and the way in which the competition works. It is very, very, would you agree? It's very different from sort of a standard athletics type of competition, because it's all about your own. It's your own battles. It's winning against yourself, right? I'm sort of putting it out there, but I would like you to talk about that, because this isn't about me and it's about you as the guest. So, I mean, what would you say about that? Like in terms of how you frame the competition, how you frame defining a win. Let's talk about that.
I guess I'll just go at the private thing. I guess before my picture went viral, I was really private about it. I mean, my family didn't even know I was in Chamonix racing. They knew I ran. They kind of had a sense of the races I did, but I'd never posted on Instagram before. This was all a bit of a shock to me that people found my ultra running thing quite interesting. And it's only because of seeing the impact that talking about that photo has had on so many women around the world, and that I've been realizing that I've got to become more public about it and talk about it, and I see the impact. But it was very much a private thing. People knew me the business side, and you can Google, and it was like these two people kind of came up, and some people connected the two. One's like hair down, one's hair up. But yeah, it's now not private anymore. But it very much was, because it's very personal. I think that leads to your point about what the competition is, and it's getting more and more elite. More and more people are coming into the sport now. When I started 12 years ago, it was really not that many people on start lines, kind of very kind of muddy and kind of really grassroots. And now that the money's come in to the sport, but it is very much against yourself. I mean, I could turn up to a start line and win a race, or I could having a very bad race for myself, or I could be way down the leaderboard and have a great race because of who's on the start line, and that doesn't make me excited to win a race. It's very much about looking at the race as to what I want to get from it, and sometimes that's just a day without the kids, sometimes that's 5 days without the kids, in extreme circumstances. Sometimes that I want to push my body and really kind of run fast. Sometimes I just haven't seen a friend in a while and we want to run some miles together, and we'll meet at the start line and run until we part. So it is different, but it is a really personal thing. And I think it's so difficult. Like when you go into the black hole and, or the pain cave, as people call it, it's very difficult to be motivated by someone else rather than something very intrinsic to you as to why you're doing it. And if you're motivated by someone else or beating someone else, I don't think for most people that's a strong enough emotion to get you through that pain. It has to be something different.
Because it's so long and sustained, I guess. It's such long time, plodding along, up and down hills, I guess. So it's sustaining that period. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a very different framing of setting yourself up for win. So how do you do it? Because I know in the video, in the film you've just done, we see a lot about your coaching team, your physio, you have a whole team, which is amazing. And I love seeing that, because pretty much everyone I talk to, they talk about the people that have helped drive them, challenge them, get them stepping up. I've talked to incredible teachers and things. So can you talk to me a bit about that? How do you set yourself up with that? How do you know who to choose? What do you need there to help you set yourself up for those personal wins?
I think I didn't have a team at all until 2016. So most of my running has just been, I'll go for some runs and I'll rock up to some races. And I didn't take it very seriously. And it was only in 2016 where I realized I'd run a particularly fast kind of 100-mile race the year before. And I had an entry for a race called Spartathlon, which is 153 miles nonstop from Athens to Sparta. It's the original route of kind of Theodippides, who kind of did the marathon bit at the end, but he'd already run kind of just faster and back before then. That's probably why I died, not the marathon. And you've got 36 hours. So it's a really tight time frame and really tight cutoffs. And so I got a coach, and it was a guy called Robbie Britton, who's an incredible GB ultra runner who'd happened to be on an ultra with my hubby in the Arctic. And John has been like, Robbie's a great guy, give him a call. So that was the first time I had a coach. And that's when I properly started training. And I realized kind of having a coach, especially now I'm a mum, is really important, because it's so hard to make that time for yourself, to make that time to train. Your time is always the first to kind of get taken away. And the guilt factor is, kind of, okay, we need to go, so I'll drop my run and we'll do that. So having a coach kind of sets it out and says, I've got to do these sessions. And she knows my life. So now I have a brilliant coach called Edwina Sutton, who is a mum of 3 and a GB ultra runner. So she completely understands my life. There are sessions when I was pregnant, the sessions saying, just go for a hike with the kids, or actually send the kids for a hike and you get a nap. They're my favorite running weeks are the last ones. So around me at the moment, I've got a coach, because I do want to get back to training quickly, and I do want to be fit and healthy as well as run. But coming back from pregnancy in particular, having a pelvic health physio for a woman is so important. Our bodies are going through trauma. Staying safe during pregnancy, getting back quickly, being strong. An amazing physio called Emma Brockwell, who actually wrote the return to running guidelines for the government. It's just been released. They're brilliant. And a book saying, I think it's called Why Did No One Tell Me? All about pregnancy and postpartum. So without her, I would not be as strong. I made loads of mistakes for my first and second pregnancies. So she's on the side to get my body strong. Edwina's on the side to kind of get me running. I'm also seeing someone for my hamstring, because I tore that during pregnancy. And then looking ahead, and they all work together to get me there. And I'm not an elite athlete. I'll be really clear. I'm not an elite athlete. But coming back from pregnancy, if you had a torn hamstring, you would see someone, a specialist for it. And that's what childbirth is like too. And now I'm working with Shane Benzie on running form, because I don't have much time to run. And that's the thing of when you've got all these different goals and they're all competing and I have so many kind of things that want my time. I'm never 100% anything. And so if I want to achieve what I want to achieve in running, I've got to be as an efficient runner as possible. I've got to stay not injured. I've got to be able to maximize that training. And that's what kind of Shane's going to help me do. So it does look like I've got a huge team around me for a non-elite runner, but running's that important to me. And I want to stay fit and healthy. And it's important that that I'm a role model to my children, especially now I have a daughter. And they work together to help me achieve those goals, because I wouldn't be able to do it on my own.
I'm really interested about the change between you as a driven person with that grit and finding that association, that reason to do it, that purpose. And you mentioned about your businesses, and I was sort of thinking about that as well. And that's why I got myself confused, because I was like, that's nothing to do with running, and we're talking about running. But you talked about wanting to do something good for the world and being driven in that way. And I think, I don't know, I'm trying to tie those two together. Is there something there around purpose and drive and reason for doing things that you know, when you're in that pain cave, as you referred to it, is there something there that you tap into, do you think? Please don't just say no.
I think purpose has become a really important word in my life. I think certainly now after UTMB, I think starting up the kind of company I did, and driving that, you know, it was all about getting a better world for my children, kind of having children breathe cleaner air, and then kind of moved out of London, and it's really clean around Surrey. And it wasn't kind of UTMB kind of realizing that I had this ability to connect with so many women and change their lives. And the things that have come out of that photo have been just remarkable, and keep going. And kind of talking to press around the film, which kind of Hocker sponsored. And they put me in touch with the magazines, and they're like, oh, when I saw that photo, this is how it changed my life. And I've got women who've had babies because of that photo. They never thought they could get back to running. They thought they'd lose themselves. And so there's a huge purpose that I have to help women. And that's very separate from my own I only call it selfish because I think we have an entitlement to our goals. But a lot of my life is driven by, how do I help other women now? I mean, almost every decision I'm making and kind of what I'm doing. I guess I've got a 3-month-old baby, so I should be doing maternity leave, but instead I'm working till midnight every night, kind of writing articles, speaking to people, getting back to Instagram messages. And that's really important to me. So I think that drives me in so many ways to be as effective as I can be to help others. But the reason to run is I really like running. And I really, some people kind of enjoy kind of pushing a marathon PB and they want to bring that down. I think running is so many different things to me, and I'm very conscious that it's not all of me. And you see kind of people kind of, they go across the other side of the world for a marathon, and if they don't get their PB, it's a wasted trip to them. And I'm not fixated on the numbers in that way. But I am really fixated on knowing what my body can achieve. I don't think I've run my best race, and I want to keep running till I'm 70 plus. I've got friends who are running in their 70s, and it's just a very important part of my life on the social side. I love meeting new people. I love the fact that you show up to a start line and you could be running next to someone, and you could be running next to them in the Spine Fusion, the 268-mile race I did. I was running next to a guy for 36 hours at least. We'd never met before. And we just formed a little duo, and he was a professor of philosophy from Estonia. Brilliant fun. I went back to like my undergrad philosophy, and we were both completely hallucinating from lack of sleep, and he was giving me basic philosophy lessons. That can go some tangent. But it's something very different, the personal challenge on that. And that's just my goal, and I love to do it. And it's just for me. Yes, having a daughter is different. I do feel a sense of responsibility to inspire even more than I did my sons. But running is just for me, but it's very now linked to my purpose of helping other women.
So I'm really interested as well tonight, because you mentioned about your husband also doing long runs and ultra marathons and things. You said he was doing something in the Arctic, an ultra, and does he still run? And how do you balance that as a family? Like, how do you run together? Like, is it grandparents all the way, or like, how does that work?
He's not really a runner, as in he's more a cyclist. So I signed him up for a stage race in Nepal in, I think, 2011, kind of a year after I did Marathon des Sables, because I really wanted to do this race, and we didn't have kids at the time, and that would be our holiday for the year. And so I signed him up without telling him. And he's even grittier than me. His pain tolerance is insane. But he has brittle bones, and every time I seem to send him for a race, he breaks something. So he's on the watt bike now, and he is one of these Swift people that disappears up to the gym and does. I don't get it, but he loves it. So we both like staying fit and healthy. We both love hiking. We've done races together we did a race together in Iceland as well. Racing, since we've had the kids, it's more difficult. It's all about we sit down on a Sunday and go what's your training like for the week? What's my training like for the week? How do we manage this? We have a gym at home. He's generally on the bike in the evenings while I'm settling the kids down. I get the Saturday morning slot because I like to run, and then often park run. We juggle our year. So if I have a big goal coming up, he'll probably end up doing a bit less training. When he did Ice Ultra, he's done it twice last year. My training completely backed off. And I was supporting him, setting his plans, putting all his kit together. When we take on a goal, like when I take on a race, I never take it on my own. It's a family goal. His goals are family goals. My goals are family goals, because we all need to put into that, and we all benefit from it. And I love seeing him succeed. And I'll do everything I can to help him reach his goals, because they're shared. So I think that's how we plan our. I'm definitely the logistics person, and he works really hard, and he's not very good on logistics. So I set the family plan of this is what it's going to happen. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to this place to go for a hike, and I'm going to run and meet you all there, and that's my run for the day. We make it work. We're not. I think the elite. This is not our job, and I think that's what takes the stress off of it. And if we miss sessions, it doesn't matter. If I'm not out to win races. I'm out to do things against myself, and I guess we both measure our performance against what's possible for us, given our constraints. And it would be interesting to see, if I trained as an elite and I didn't have children, how good I could be, but that's not open to me. So I'm going to do what I can within my constraints, and my winning is doing as well as I can, and understanding that I can't have a nap in the middle of the day, and train twice a day, and I could have brilliant nutrition, but I really like chocolate. And there's always chocolate in the house. There you go. No, nutrition is something I could nail if I really stuck at it. But we just define things differently. We're very competitive against ourselves, but maybe less against other people.
Yeah. That's it. I like that, family goals. I like that philosophy a lot. And I think for any parents listening and watching, it's very much a team effort, right? You're in it, no matter what you're doing, you're best when you're a team. and I think that those family goals, I love that philosophy, or that mindset. I'm interested to ask you about this. So you've said about looking at what your body can do, being really interested in what can your body achieve, what can your body do, where can you take it to. And I actually understand that because I got very fit when I was 34. And again, nothing like you, but like pushed myself. And I found new places that I never knew existed within my head, within my capacity to do things. And I was interested to know your thoughts around something when, as we get older, we are more prone to injury, where we atrophy muscle somewhat. We lose the ability to train as much. Sometimes, life gets in the way of being able to achieve the physical heights that we maybe had when we were in our 20s and 30s, for example. Where, like, what do you think about that? Is that not true? You said you're going to be running ultras when you're 70. I'm going to guess that your 70-year-old self, when they're running an ultra, will have a very different time goal or way in which they'll look to do the run than you would now. But which still will, of course, be a win for that 70-year-old. But I'm interested to know your thoughts on that, because I think a lot of people who have achieved something amazing in their life, there's always a struggle. It's like, was that my best day? And looking back on it, was that the best? And am I never going to be there again? And there's some sort of mourning process. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because I have some ideas, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
I guess so I'm 38 now, and for ultra runners, I think female ones, a lot of the British team are in their 40s. So you get better. So for me, it's actually a case of I see the next kind of 5-10 years of me getting better. And I didn't run so much. I didn't run as a kid, so I didn't have as many miles in my legs as others. And I know so much more about how to look after myself. And ultra running is a lot about how to look after yourself, and not kind of so much about kind of the physical side potentially. And knowing what you're doing, and knowing your nutrition, and knowing your strength sets, and where your kind of your training should be. So I still see myself on the up. I still see that my kind of faster races are still to come. But there's always different challenges beyond that in ultra running, and there's age group challenges, and just being able to finish certain races. It's not about, a lot of the races I do, it's about getting across the finish line. Well, that's a win. Not how long it takes you. It's can you actually finish that race? And our bodies do change. I think one of the things I've got really interested in the last year is female physiology, and how little is known about the female body, and how we go through those big life stages of kind of puberty, of having children, of menopause, and how we can stay strong within those. And it's not taught at school. It really should be taught at school. And the need to really strength train through menopause, and how kind of we're so at risk of osteoporosis because we don't do that. And kind of 80% of people with osteoporosis are women. So as part of it, I'm a trustee of the charity Women in Sport, which aims to kind of keep women active and give every woman the opportunity to be active. And through the life cycle, a lot of this in my head is becoming on the education side and making sure that activity is open to people. So for me, I'm learning about my body in a way that I never have before. I finally understand all the different parts of a menstrual cycle, which I've forgotten from GCSE biology completely. And then through 3 babies, and you're like, well, I'm supposed to try it this time of the month because this is what happens with the egg and everything else. But you don't understand the hormones and what that means to you. So for me, I think my best days are still to come. I think the types of challenge I'll do will change. I certainly think that there's some big endurance cycle rides with my husband when the kids get older, and we can ship them off to different places, and we can go and grab our bikes and do something new together. So I get that if you won an Olympic gold medal and you retire, you're not going to win that Olympic gold medal when you stop training. And that's why I'm quite glad it's not my job, my career, and I don't define myself. I don't define myself in one way, because I think that's really dangerous to just say I'm one thing, because that can be taken away from you. This is one thing I do. I love running. It's really important. If someone turned around tomorrow and said, you can never run again, and actually they did, the day after I gave birth to my first child, I basically said, well, you might not be able to run again. I would find something else to do, and that I could still seek in a personal growth in, and still set myself challenges, because at heart, I love setting myself a challenge and overcoming it.
Yeah. I can see that in you. I think that's probably, hopefully, very clear for everyone listening. It is incredible. Like, you've clearly got a mindset that you said it, grit. I love that term, and I think that's exactly what you see coming through. I mean, I remember being at business school with you, and you weren't an ultra runner then. I didn't really know much about you back then, so I didn't really know that you had that. I knew about the RAF part, but I didn't know that you had this tremendous grit inside of you. But my guess is that's bled into lots of different parts of your life through university stuff. Because where did you go to university as well?
Oxford.
You went to Oxford, yeah. So for those that don't know, Oxford is, I think, the second best university in the world behind Cambridge, where my niece is at.
It's number one. No, it's number one. I don't think Cambridge is even number two, actually.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just joking.
It's an Oxford INSEAD, like number one combo at the moment.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. She went to the best university in the world, the best business school in the world. But seriously, though, I think, that is also something you didn't mention. And, that's incredibly impressive to get into Oxford. You have to have performed extremely well at school and done very well in A levels, and then also have, interviews and a great application and everything else. And I think that, for me, is something which is it's very inspiring for people to sort of see, but it's also, I think it's very good for people to hear you're centered around this amazing thing you do in ultra running being for yourself. But now with that photo that went viral, you've kind of got dragged into a world where it's like, okay, now you've got an opportunity to be an ambassador, and you've taken that and run with it. And excuse the pun. But I think that's an amazing thing. I think we should probably wrap up, because I've taken way too much of your time, and we had technical issues coming into this. I think it's the first time I've glitched in a podcast that I've done so far in the middle there. So I might even chop a bit of my own glitching out and try and make sense of it later down the line, and just jump into the question, because I got myself all confused about purpose a little bit back. But Sophie, before we wrap up, I wanted to give you a chance to promote everything you've got to promote. Give us your social channels that you want to promote. Just go wild. I like anyone listening, I really hope you got the feel, because I love talking to you, and I think you're such an inspiring woman. So go ahead and tell us all of the different places where everyone's got to follow, watch, do, click.
This is why I wasn't on Instagram before. So I'm on Instagram at ultra_Sophie, and basically any women, or actually guys, I'll answer anything from guys too. If you do message me on ultra running, pregnancy, activity questions, I will get back to you. I love helping other people kind of achieve their goals. The film I brought out was it's a 25-minute film, all about my return to running after being pregnant with my third baby, and it's sponsored by Hoka, the trail shoe running brand. And it's available on their Instagram, YouTube channel, or my link in bio, or I do one of those Bitly links. Is it called Bitly, whatever? Called, I don't know, but it's under Sophie Power Film.
Okay, perfect.
And I'd love if you know anyone that's having a baby, or thinking about it, or just a mum that runs, I'd love her to see it and let me know kind of what they think of it.
Okay, I'm going to try and put the links wherever I can as well. So they'll be down below in the YouTube video. I know that for sure, but also in the podcast bit. Still haven't quite worked out how that all works, and I haven't sorted out a website. So I'll put them as much as I can. But Sophie, thank you so much. Before we leave, have you got anything else you wanted to say, or anything else you wanted to leave with on a parting thought?
Oh gosh, thank you for having me on the spot. I think the big thing for people is to say, kind of, don't be afraid to really dream really big. And I think it's potentially a female thing that we often suffer from a lack of self-confidence, and we look at something, and if we're not absolutely sure we can do it, like an ultra marathon, we're like, oh, maybe that sounds too tough, then we shy away from it. And I think when we take on challenges that we're not completely sure we can do, and they're a little bit scary in a way, overcoming them is so much better. And there's just so much that we can do, that you don't really, you're capable of so much more than you really realize. So go and scare yourself, and then you start setting the bar even higher.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sophie. You take care of yourself, and I'm dying to see you back on the running again.
Thanks, Nick.
All right.